Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're going to be making a slingshot. Well, I thought this might be a fun project to get the kids involved once again and pass our craft on to the next generations. And as I said in the intro, we're going to be making a slingshot. When I was a young boy, my dad used to make slingshots for me, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. And in fact, I still have one of them here. This is an original that my father made for me when I was a young boy. And I still have it, and it hangs here in my shop, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. But we're going to make one today, and it's all going to start off, instead of sticks like what Dad made mine, we're going to make mine today out of plywood. Well, like a lot of my projects here on the show, it's going to start out with some layout, and that would be the layout of our actual pattern of the slingshot. So bear with me here, and we will go through this step by step so that you guys can make your own in your shop. Now, the first thing that we want to do is we want to mark the height of our slingshot. And for us today, that will be 7 inches. So we're just going to put a line across our board at 7 inches, just like that. And then from there, of course, we want to put our width. And our width is going to be, let's say, I'm going to say 5 inches. So 5 inches on the width, and as well, we will also mark our center line, which will be at 2.5. Just like that. Now our handle that we grip is going to be 4.5 inches long. So we're going to place that mark here at 4.5 inches so that we can separate it. And this will be our shooting area. So we're going to put a mark at 3/4 of an inch in from each side. One there, and this one here, 3/4 of an inch in. And that should give us a distance for our projectile to shoot through at 3.5 inches. Let me just check that there. And yes, we're at 3.5. Well, you can't just have this all squared off like that. So we're going to round it off. So the next thing we need, of course, will be a compass. Now, if you guys don't have a compass, that's fine. You can use a jar lid. You can use whatever you want. But what we're going to want to do is we need to round this center off. But of course, we need another 3/4 of an inch in here in order to give it some body to connect to. So we are at, let me just check here. What did I say the handle was? 4.5. So we're going to come up 3/4 of an inch from there. And this will be our shooting area. Now, I had originally placed this line here for the top of our shooting area, and then realized it really didn't give us enough room to play with there. So I'm actually going to shorten up our handle a little bit, because there's plenty of room there for my hand and for someone to hold on to it. So we're going to come down 3/4 of an inch from the bottom of our shooting area, and this now is where we're going to round off. So we'll just place our compass right here, and hopefully we'll get a nice line. Look at the curve there. There we go. Just going to try to draw it a little darker so it shows better on the camera. Just like that. Now that we have that line, we also want to round off our outside just to make that a little prettier. You know, you don't want it all squared off. So we're going to line up just like this. And we're going to round this section off as well. There we go. Look how spectacular that is. The next part that we want to mark is our handle. And we need to decide exactly how wide we want it. And I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe an inch? Would an inch be enough? I think an inch would be enough. So from the center line, we're going to draw vertical lines here to represent our handle. And if you remember, our center line was at 2.5, so we're going to come out to 3 inches on one side and to 2 inches on the other, and that should give us a 1 inch wide handle. And of course now we want to round off this corner here, but we don't want to go too crazy on it because it'll shorten up our handle if we go too crazy. So we're just going to use a circle template and round this off just like that. And on this side as well. And I'm thinking that we need to round off the bottom here. So 1 inch wide, we'll use a 1 inch circle template and we will round off our bottom. And I would also like to round off our top sections up here. And if you remember, those were 3/4 of an inch across. So we'll get a 3/4 inch circle template here. And we will round off the top of our slingshot. Now that, my friends, is the layout. A little fly by the seat of your pants there for a bit, a little bit of confusion in this area, but that's okay. We're going to take it over to the scroll saw now. I'm going to use a number 7 reverse tooth blade on the 3/4 inch ply, and we're going to carefully cut the perimeter of the slingshot. And there we have our slingshot handle. The next step now that we want to do is, this is not comfortable at all. This is hard corners. This is very difficult on the hands. And we want to take it over to the router table and round off with a 1/4 inch round over all of the edges on both sides. And now that you've got it round over, give the whole thing a really good sanding to make it nice and smooth. Sand it right up to 220 grit. Well, over 40 years ago when my dad made this one for me, the material of choice for the rubber in order to give that sling was old bicycle inner tube. And I'm almost afraid to pull this stuff here because it has been 40 years, but it's still got some elasticity from it, and Dad used to just wrap it around, carve this out a bit, and tie it on. The choice for the pocket back then was an old piece of leather from an old glove, and we are going to use the exact same material for that pocket, which is the cuff of an old leather work glove. And the choice of material for me for today is surgical tubing. And I have 2 11-inch long pieces of it here to use for our slingshot. Now, the first thing we do, or we need to do, is we need to cut our pocket to size. Well, I've marked out a pocket that is 2 inches by 4 inches, and I'm just going to carefully cut it out here. And then once we get it cut out, we need to punch a hole in each of the ends in order to accept our surgical tubing. So we'll just get this cut out and we'll punch those holes, and then we can move on to the next step. Well, this is where it gets a little tricky. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to attach this leather to here. And what we're going to do is push our surgical tubing through one of these holes in the pocket. Now, it's a little tight fit, but that's okay. That's how you want it. Just like this. We're just going to pull it through, like that. Okay, you don't want to pull a lot through, just a little bit. Now, with your pair of snips, about 1/2 inch back from the end of your tube, just slot your surgical tubing about halfway through. Just like that. See how I've made that opening there? I've slid it open. Now, on the opposite end, what we're going to do is we're going to cut it so that it's thinner for about 1 inch. Just like that. Now what this does is this is going to allow us to open this hole, wrap it around, and push it through. So what we're going to need is a little bit of soap. And this soap is going to lubricate this and allow us to push this rubber through because it's really grippy. So we're going to use the soap to lubricate both sides. It's a little messy, but that's okay. We're going to push the part that we made smaller here in through that slot, and you can see it coming out there at the end. And now I'm just going to get a rag and wipe my hands now. I'll just use my shop apron. And we're going to get a good grip on this, and we're going to pull it through. Now, if it starts getting tight, no problem. Just get a little bit of soap on your fingers. You don't need a lot. You see that there, just a little drop. And just lubricate this rubber surgical tubing. And it will pull through half decently once you get it lubricated. The problem here is that my fingers are slippery, so it's not allowing me to grip it. So just give me a second. Let me get a pair of pliers to get a better grip there. There it goes. Once the inside of that surgical tubing starts getting lubed up, it slides really well. And now that we have more tubing, we can really get a good pull on it. So a little bit more soap here to lubricate this up. Here we go, just like this. And once this soap dries, it kind of acts like a glue to hold it together. Look at that, just like that. And a little bit more. There we go, and that one is done. So we're going to repeat that process on the other side, and then we can attach it to our handle. And there we have both of our ends attached on there. You can see how nice and secure that is. It's amazing how strong this stuff is and how much it stretches. So that should give some good strength to this slingshot. So now we have to attach it to here, and there's a couple different ways that you can do it. A lot of people like to wrap it around after notching this Y, wrap it around and then do a tie on this side here. Dad was no different. That's the way Dad liked to do it too. But I'm thinking something a little more simple. And what I'm thinking of is going straight through the actual frame. This is plywood. It's quite secure, it's quite sturdy, and it's very stable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a 9/32 hole about 1/2 inch down from the top of each of these, and we're going to insert our surgical rubber through and then tie a knot to keep it from pulling out. Well, I've drilled my holes and countersunk on both sides so that there's no sharp abrasive edges against our surgical tubing. And we're just going to pull this through. What you want to end up with here is about 6 to 7 inches on this side for pulling. So it's not imperative, that's not a definitive measurement, but I found that that's a good distance. I'm actually at 6 inches there. I'll probably end up with a little more by the time I tie the knot. So we'll just pull that back out. We'll knot this here. Hopefully our knot's gonna slide a bit on this rubber. If not, you can always use some more soap and lube it up. So we're just gonna tie a knot, slide it along to the end here, and pull it tight. Just like that. Tight, 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 there we go. And then that's it. That's not going anywhere, just like that. And let's see how much we actually ended up with there. It actually looks more like 5 inches. 5 and a half. So that's not bad. I'll deal with that. So we'll tie a knot in the other side and secure that. And then we'll trim this end up here. And then it's time to test it. This is the fun part. So I don't have much to test it with, but I do have a wooden bead. So we're going to just wrap it in our little leather holder, pull it back, and let her rip. Whoa! Ricochet! Okay, do not use them inside. This thing has a lot of power. That's awesome. That is spectacular. Look at that. And there you have it. A slingshot. Guys, when I was a young boy and I would go camping with my dad used to always make some of these. Now, it wasn't every camping trip because, of course, they would last more than one trip. But the fact that I still have one shows you how much it meant to me over the years, and I cannot part with it. And I'm sure that if you make one of these for your young child or your grandchild, or even just a gift for someone else, I mean, I'm sure that they're gonna love it. It's a lot of fun, it's a fast, easy project, and it doesn't take a lot of material. A little bit of surgical tubing and a leather patch from an old glove and a small little piece of ply. I mean, it is spectacular and strong, and it's one of those things you can fit it in your back pocket. And you know what, guys, a slingshot when I was a boy was a staple. If you didn't have a slingshot, there was something wrong with you. And here we go. Now I've got another one. Guys, I really hope that you've enjoyed this project, and I honestly hope that you're going to try this for yourself, because it is a great load of fun. And again, I've said it before, it's another way to get the children into the shop, to show them that not everything is store-bought, that sometimes you can make your own stuff and it's a lot of fun. So pass the craft on to the next generations, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click that bell so you don't miss the notifications of future shows. And I hope you're going to join me next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.